Carolyn Dube here. What's the play for today? Well, today I am playing with a junk journal. Now, why did I decide to grab a junk journal today? Because I was looking at a blank page on something and I could feel the paralysis come over me. I couldn't decide what to do and I went, oh, we've got to nip that in the bud right away. So what I do when I feel that feeling is I grab something that already has something on the page. That way, it's not a blank page anymore. And junk journals are loaded with those because there's already something on every single page. Now, this junk journal was built using a hardback book and using all sorts of materials to make all different kinds of pages. And it looks very random, but when all put together, it becomes a fantastic place to start, especially if you're having a day like me today, where the blank page was absolutely paralyzing. Now, how do you build one of these journals? That I show in my DVD, Junk Journals, available at Northlight and Interweave. But in this video, what I'm going to be showing you is how I build a page after I've got my junk journal built, how I create an art journal page with the start that's on here. And you're going to see oops after oops after oops. And I absolutely love that because that means I am playing and having fun. Well, this page started right out with an oops. See that book text there? It's upside down. Oops. It's totally an outstanding opportunity presenting suddenly because it gives me an opportunity to cover it up. And I love getting my fingers in paint. There is something about the feel of paint and paper with my fingers that I absolutely adore. Puts me in the best mood. The paint I'm using is Dylusions paint, and I'm just smearing it all around, putting on a fairly thick coat of it just so that I can cover up most of the words. If you don't want to use your finger, can you use a brush? Absolutely. Now I've got all that paint there and that's all white. And well, white space with me, not going to stay white that long. So I'm grabbing some yellow paint and I am just mixing them together to make a nice soft yellow. That's going to go along with the moon that's on the facing page. So yeah, that's my big plan, to make all this coordinate. Yeah, that's it. Now notice as I'm dipping my finger between the paints, I am contaminating my paints just a little bit. If that bothers you, put the paint out on a palette and do it that way. It doesn't really bother me with that little bit of paint. I'm just happy to get my fingers in it. Of course, I do wipe my fingers off. That's what the paper on the counter's for. What's most exciting to me at this point is I'm now creating, I'm moving. I'm no longer stuck, I'm making something. Do I know exactly what I'm doing with this? Absolutely not. I'm just doing different things and seeing where it goes. I grabbed a fine liner and this has some white ink in it, and I'm just tracing around some of the shapes that are there from an old vintage piece of magazine. I've colored that in with color bursts, and this is actually one of the pages that I created in the DVD called Junk Journals, and I'm just kind of scribbling around stuff. Underneath that purple, there are some words. They're very hard to read because, well, it's purple with black words. What did I think was going to happen? What I'm going to do, though, is look for some inspiration in them and kind of circling the words that call out to me, because that is going to be what inspires what I do on the next page. Now, you just saw me wipe off the tip because there had been a bunch of ink on that. It had kind of gotten a little bit thicker than what I wanted, and I want a fine line. If that ever happens to you, you just wipe it off on something like a paper towel or a Kleenex or whatever you've got around. Well, what were the words that I circled? Little girl was carried into the moon. And that is totally what's going to inspire the word that I want to put on this other side. I'm going to go with the word fly because it's all about flying to the moon for me on this page. Kicker though is that all that yellow paint and white paint that I mixed on that side, it's all still absolutely sloppy wet. I could wait for it to dry, but I don't want to. And I could get a heat gun out and dry it, but I don't want to. I'm just going to grab a cosmetic sponge and another color and just stencil right over that wet paint. Now, I'm all good with making an oops here or there, but I do love to avoid making the color mud too. So the color that I picked to put on top is orange, and orange and yellow mix well together. So even if the colors mix a little bit, it's still going to look good. Now the stencil, which is called Now Is the Time from over at Stencil Girl products that I designed, it has paint on the back of it because it was on wet paint. And I don't want to waste any paint, and I don't want to have to really clean off my stencil. So I'm going to do both things at once. By pushing that stencil onto some scrap paper, what I'm doing is getting the paint off of the stencil so I don't have to worry about cleaning it, and I'm not wasting any color. That scrap piece of paper, I'll let color build on it and eventually use it in a journal or something like that. And now for the scariest part of art journaling for me, and that is using my own handwriting where you can actually read the words. So I'm not going to do scribble writing, I'm actually going to do it so that it can be read. and I want to put to the moon. Already, oh no, my the is bigger than my to, like the T and the H in there, and I'm kind of bumping into the Y, and I don't like my own handwriting, and these are the kinds of things that run through my head. And when I notice those kinds of things in my head, I call on my inner mouthy teenager who kind of back talks to that voice and says, it's paint, it's paper, it's a junk journal, let it go and have some fun. So I've got the words on there. Now it's time to add a little more color because look at all that white space around it. Can't have that. So I'm going to bring in purple. And I love this purple. It's rich, it's wonderful. It's of the Dilutions colors. And after I get it done, I go, oops. Right after I put it down, I kind of went, I really like the color, but I don't like it here. So is this a mistake? No, it's just an oops. And let me tell you, we've got a few more oops coming on this thing because this is not going to be the first problem with it. I thought, well, I'll put some white over it. I'll kind of push it down and soften it up. And yeah, as soon as I started that, I went, oops again. That's not exactly what I want. But again, it's paper, it's a junk journal, and I'm having fun playing, so it doesn't matter to me if it's not finished yet. Well, oops after oops after oops here, I decided it's time to bring in a little sparkle. So I grabbed some glitter paste from Viva, and I'm just going to put that right on top. Now, nothing on here is really dry, so all the wet things are kind of mixing together, and usually I absolutely adore glitter. But for some reason, putting it here, I kind of went, nope, oops again. I'm starting to notice a trend. I didn't like the purple, I didn't like the white on it, I didn't like it with the glitter on it. I'm thinking there's something else going on here. There's an opportunity here, and I just don't know what it is yet. My muse knows, but she's going to make me go through all these layers before I get to the place where I'm happy. And even if I don't exactly like how the glitter looks right now, it always does make me happy to play with glitter for any reason. So I've got the glitter, I've got the purple, and I've decided I'm just going to go back over this with white. When in doubt, you can cover over it. That's the beauty of mixed media. Just add another layer to it. And I can't believe how much I love it with the white on top. Little bits of the glitter kind of peeking out of the edge and a little bit of the purples peeking out. Apparently, I just needed something a little more subtle than what I had done. All those oops built up one after the other to get me here. Well, the last thing I want to add is some scribble journaling. I have got totally wet paint there. There's nothing that can write over wet paint except something like paint with a fine tip. So this one is one of the Pico embellishers, and I am just doing some scribble writing right over that. You may notice that the top gets a little bit of paint on it. That all it takes is a Kleenex or paper towel and you wipe it off. Of course, still had to get rid of some of that other white space, so I'm going to use that purple fine liner and add a little bit more here and there. Well, thanks for joining me for today's play. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. And of course, stop on over to the blog and say hello at acolorfuljourney.com. I've got a newsletter that always has downloadable goodies and freebies in it every time I pop into your inbox. Thanks for being a part of this colorful journey.